Hi, I'm Ryan with the R&R Law Group. Today we're talking about pretrial services. So pretrial services is one of the conditions that can be imposed upon you as a release condition. So if you get charged with a felony, you get released from custody, and the judge orders that you report to pretrial services. That's what we're talking about today. So what it's like a pre-probation. So a lot of the same terms that are imposed upon you in probation can be imposed upon you in the pretrial services. So what that means is that they can have, the check-ins. You can have alcohol and drug monitoring. There's electronic monitoring. You have to test with them. You have to check in after every court date. They could have meetings with you. They could come out to your house and see that you're abiding by all of your other release conditions. If you were ordered not to return to the scene of the crime and that was your house, your apartment, then the pretrial services may be the ones that are checking in on you to make sure that you're not living at that same location and that you do have a new residence at that point in time. There's two locations. There's the 620 West Jackson location, which is downtown Phoenix. So if you've been in any one of the downtown courts and that's where you're released to pretrial services, you want to take that couple block walk and go over to pretrial services right then and there. Again, you have to check in after every single court appearance that you're in there. That's always one of the orders, is to check in after every court appearance. Or if you happen to be out in the southeast facility out in Mesa, that's off of 222 East Javelina. Again, that's in Mesa. That's actually in the southeast court facility. So it's down on the first floor. You'll see the signs that point towards pretrial services. But if you've been ordered into pretrial services by one of the judges out in the southeast facility, that's going to be where you report to. Again, what this is that this is a way for a judge to release you without having to post a bond, but still having some supervision over you. So as we talked about in our release conditions video, you could have a no bond, be released on your own recognizance. This is the next level. That pretrial services means that you don't have to post any money in order to get out of custody, but you do have somebody that's going to supervise you. How long does this last? It depends. So you could file a motion to modify your release conditions. Generally, we don't advise that when you're just released to pretrial services, mostly because the judges aren't, unless there's a big change in circumstance or there's a real big reason why that should get changed, most of the judges aren't going to change that. They're going to tell you, no, you still have to go to pretrial services. You have to check in after every court hearing. Just go do it. So usually this lasts for as long as your case is open. So for a lot of felonies in the RCC level or the Southeast facility, that could be a very short time. It could be 30 days, it could be 45 days, could be 90 days. For some other felonies, it could last up to 2 years. It just kind of depends on what the level of the allegations are, what the charges are, and how long your case is going to last. Those are all the things that are going to determine how long pretrial services is. Now, one thing that's important to note is that they report all violations to the court. So that's one of the big things that happens is, and can be a surprise, and can be a surprise for attorneys sitting there is, and that's one of the worst things that can happen is a judge says, counselor, have you reviewed the pretrial services report, and it has something negative on it. So if they're asking you to test for drugs and alcohol and you miss a test, that's considered a violation. So that's considered that almost as though you tested positive. Could have not tested positive, but because you missed that test, the court's going to deem that as a positive test. So those violations get reported to it. If you miss phone calls with pretrial services, if you don't check in after court, those are all things that are going to get reported to the court. Now, the good news for you is that if you're doing well on pretrial services, that's something that can be used to your advantage. We can talk to the county attorney's office and say, hey, look, has been doing 8 months of pretrial services, has never had a violation. We can use that in negotiating the length of time for probation when it comes time for sentencing. We can tell the judge, Judge, look, our client has been on pretrial services for 6 months. That shows you how well they're going to perform on probation. We think that a shorter term of probation is warranted here, and that may save you some time on probation. So those are all the different things that pretrial services can include. Again, make sure you stay in contact with pretrial services. Make sure that you're reporting as required, and understand that they report all violations to the court. So that's the last thing you want is for your attorney to get surprised in court with a pretrial services saying, you violated your pretrial services, and that they're asking that you be taken into custody. It's one of the worst things that can happen, but just make sure that you're reporting as you're supposed to. And if you have any questions about pretrial services, or something like that has been imposed in your case and something doesn't seem right, feel free to call our office. We can sit down, we can talk about the options that you have and explain everything to you, exactly what it means. Thanks for watching.